I'm telling you, kids, don't come to Hollywood. I'm serious.
Your cameras.
The media, man, it is one hell of an entity. It really can have you thinking that the bad people are good and the good people are bad.
I'm not disappearing to twiddle my thumbs. I'm disappearing to do the behind the scenes work, the inner work, the shadow work necessary to pull off what it is I'm trying to pull off against, at times, supernatural competition.
I'm sick and tired of the secrets and the lies. It is the secret symbol of the Illuminati, and you're a part of it, and it is the all-mocking tongue.
But here's what nobody is connecting. Jim Carrey is gone. Not retired, not on a break, gone. And the two people who might actually know why are Katt Williams and Keanu Reeves. One is screaming it from every stage he can find. The other is quietly standing in the wreckage, refusing to walk away. This is not a coincidence. This is a pattern. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Jim Carrey wasn't just absent from the Oscars this year. He's been absent from everything. The man who was once the most bankable comedian on the planet, pulling $20 million a picture, has essentially vanished from public life. And when a man who used to mock Illuminati symbols on late-night television suddenly goes quiet, the silence becomes its own kind of statement. There were whispers. A body double named Alexis Stone allegedly stepping in at the Caesar Awards in France to fill Jim's slot performing as him, while the real Jim was nowhere to be found. Not sick, not filming, just gone. So where is he? And more importantly, why now? To understand the disappearance, you have to understand what Jim was saying before it happened. Because this is a man who walked onto the Jimmy Fallon show, flashed what he called the secret symbol of the Illuminati into the camera, and told the entire audience in front of a laughing studio crowd that they were being manipulated.
I'm here tonight to blow the lid off it, to be the whistleblower. I'm sick and tired of the secrets and the lies.
The studio laughed, Kimmel laughed, the audience laughed, and that's exactly how it works. You neutralize the threat by putting it in a comedy frame. If you can make the truth look like a punchline, nobody takes it seriously. But Jim wasn't joking, not entirely. He had been saying the same things in different language for years in philosophical interviews about identity, in speeches at award shows where he questioned why any of it even mattered. He was not a man falling apart. He was a man slowly, deliberately, stepping away from a machine he had decided to stop pretending was clean.
And I ultimately found that even the me I created wasn't real, so that left me in an odd, precarious situation.
That word precarious lands differently when you know what comes next. Because the industry does not reward people who question it out loud. Ask Corey Feldman. Ask Rose McGowan. Ask Dave Chappelle. Ask anyone who has ever tried to name names inside this machine what happened to their career immediately afterward. Katt Williams has been the loudest voice saying what others only whisper. And his central argument is this: nothing that happens in Hollywood is accidental. Every cancellation, every elevation, every standing ovation for the wrong person, every rumor that destroys one career while another survives scandals that should have ended it all, of it is coordinated. He puts it plainly: when rappers get killed, somebody made $100 million and no longer has to honor a contract. You eliminated a $20 million liability and turned it into $60 million in back-end benefits. He's not talking theory, he's talking business.
In business, nothing is coincidental, or you will be hearing who's losing money. In all of these situations, it's only the artist that's losing. Somebody makes big money.
Apply that framework to Jim Carrey, and the picture sharpens fast. Jim at his peak was a runaway asset studios built entire marketing campaigns around his face. But Jim started doing something dangerous. He started telling audiences that the whole thing was fake, that awards were meaningless, that the persona they were buying was a character, that the industry propping up these icons was built on illusion. And then Jim Carrey at the Oscars, on national television, called the entire room spineless.
I was sickened by the standing ovation. I felt like Hollywood is just spineless, en masse. And it really felt like, oh, this is a really clear indication that we're not the cool club anymore.
He wasn't just talking about the Will Smith slap. He was talking about a room full of the most powerful people in entertainment, standing up to applaud a man who just assaulted someone on live television. He was talking about the same room that gave Roman Polanski a standing ovation, the same room that protected Harvey Weinstein for decades, the same machine that rewards loyalty to power over everything else. And the machine noticed, because this is what it does next. It doesn't send a warning, it sends a silence. Dave Chappelle showed us how that silence is was installed. He walked into a movie set and found a dress in his trailer, a costume nobody discussed with him, waiting quietly like a test. And when he refused to wear it, the pressure didn't stop. The writer came, then the director, then the producers, one by one, each using a slightly different angle, escalating the financial cost of his refusal until the room was suffocating with obligation.
I'm not wearing no dress, man. I'm funnier than a dress. Just give me something funny to say. I don't need to wear no dress to be funny.
He held. They left. 10 minutes later, a brand new scene appeared. The humiliation was preloaded. The alternative was always ready. The pressure was the real message. Say yes to something that compromises you, or watch doors close quietly. No announcements, no fights, just silence. Katt Williams calls it the social contract. Mel Gibson spelled it out to a room of people who knew exactly what he meant. You are not allowed to be angry. You take the knife between the shoulder blades, you feel it go through, and then you let it go, because resentment will eat you alive in an industry that has infinite leverage over your livelihood. That's the contract. Sign it or disappear. But this goes deeper than career pressure, because the stories coming out of Hollywood's private rooms aren't just about humiliation, they're about something much darker. Rihanna's ex-publicist described attending gatherings where phones were confiscated at the door and NDAs were signed before entry. He described rooms that felt ritualistic, coordinated lighting, symbolic imagery, music that didn't feel like entertainment. He described women being brought in by staff members, offered to guests like they were items on a menu, unable to give their names, unable to make eye contact, pulled back out an hour later like they'd never been there.
That was definitely a human trafficking thing.
We can't say that word, but human transportation.
Using transportation, yeah, sorry. That's definitely what that was. They'd bring in all these girls and then they would move them out, like in and out, like product.
He's describing the same ecosystem that federal investigators eventually found connected to Sean Combs' private gatherings with locked doors, NDAs, coordinated control. What the publicist saw wasn't a rumor, it was an infrastructure. And that infrastructure doesn't operate in the shadows alone, it operates in plain sight, hidden behind grocery stores, Victorian houses, downtown Manhattan penthouses, where you can see Times Square through the window. Corey Feldman spent his entire career trying to describe this world. He told anyone who would listen that there was a ring operating at the highest levels of Hollywood that preyed on children. He named it on The View, he named it on Nightline, and every single time, the same thing happened. The system produced enough friction to slow him down without ever fully silencing him.
They're still working, they're still out there, and they're some of the richest, most powerful people in this business.
Elijah Wood said the same thing. He said there are vipers in this industry, people who see innocence as prey. He said his mother protected him, others weren't protected. Rose McGowan called it what it is, a cult, not a metaphor, a structured system with unwritten rules that everyone somehow knows, enforced through agents and managers and insiders who quietly teach new arrivals how to behave or else. She was told her looks needed to be appealing to powerful men, or she wouldn't work. She was told this by female agents, women who had already accepted the terms.
And they had definitely a hand in telling me the rules that I had to abide by, such as, you have to have long hair, so the men in Hollywood want to have sex with you. If they don't want to have sex with you, they're not going to cast you.
And the person most associated with protecting that system, the person whose face is on the humanitarian side of the machine, is Oprah Winfrey. The woman Jaguar Wright, Ice Cube, and others have accused of quietly blackballing people who don't comply. The woman whose South African school for girls was rocked by scandal. Within its first 2 years, multiple incidents involving employees and students, while Oprah's brand remained bulletproof. The woman who was photographed warmly with Harvey Weinstein throughout a decade where, as she herself acknowledged, everyone in the industry knew exactly what Harvey was doing. Rose McGowan put it plainly, on Twitter, publicly. I am glad more people are seeing the ugly truth of Oprah. I wish she were real, but she isn't. So where does Keanu Reeves fit into all of this? Here's what we know. In a town that quietly distances itself from anyone who becomes difficult, anyone who starts saying too much, Keanu Reeves does the opposite. While Jim Carrey is mocking Illuminati symbols on Kimmel, warning kids away from Hollywood, calling the entire industry spineless on national television, Keanu is standing next to him on camera, calling him a creative genius.
He's a genius. And in this film, he's even more genius. He's double genius because he's playing two roles.
That doesn't happen by accident, not in Hollywood. Not when the subject of your praise has just publicly accused the entire room of being spineless. Keanu is making a calculation, and the calculation is, I am standing with Jim, visibly, on record. And Keanu's credibility for doing that is almost unique in this industry. This is a man who took pay cuts so his crew could get bonuses, who gave stunt teams millions of his own money, who has spent decades building a reputation as the one A-lister nobody can manufacture a scandal around. No freak-off rumors, no island stories, no NDAs, just a man who rides the subway and goes home.
He might be what we should all aspire to be. We should all aspire to be.
There are rumors circulating in industry circles that Keanu has privately sent a message, leave Jim alone. that he has warned certain people that going after Jim publicly is a fight they don't want to start. Whether those rumors are precise or embellished, the underlying dynamic is real. The cleanest man in Hollywood is placing himself between the machine and the man who won't stop talking. That means something, because Keanu has also notably spent his career refusing Oprah, dodging her world, staying away from the tables where allegiances are made. Fans have watched his career go quiet during stretches where other stars of his caliber were being handed franchises, and they connected to the same pressure that Dave described, that Katt described, that Corey described. You say no to the wrong people and the phone stops ringing. Keanu said no and kept going anyway. So when you put them next to each other, Jim, loud and chaotic and saying everything out loud, Keanu, quiet and surgical and saying nothing but standing firm, you are not looking at two unrelated men. You are looking at two people who have seen the same machine from the inside. One is exposing it in public. The other is protecting him in private. Here is what nobody wants to connect out loud. Jim Carrey spent years dismantling his own image in public, questioning fame, questioning icons, questioning why any of it mattered. He mocked the Illuminati symbol on Kimmel. He called the Oscars spineless. He warned kids not to come to Hollywood, and then he disappeared. Katt Williams, who has made a career of saying out loud what this industry does to people who speak, is doing the inner work, the shadow work, to fight what he calls supernatural competition. He is not being dramatic, he is being precise, because whatever is operating behind these closed doors, behind these NDA-required gatherings, behind these rooms underneath Victorian houses where downtown Manhattan is visible through the window, it has resources and infrastructure and reach that ordinary blacklisting doesn't explain. Corey Feldman said it, Elijah Wood said it, Rose McGowan said it, the publicist who watched women being moved in and out like product said it, and Jim Carrey, before he went quiet, said it louder than almost anyone. The machine always knows how to turn tragedy into revenue. It turned Michael Jackson's catalog into a product line the moment he was gone. It turned Prince's masters back to the label days after his death. It turned Whitney Houston's voice into an industry that runs forever without her. So when someone who has been saying too much suddenly stops saying anything, and the only person publicly standing in his corner is the one actor nobody can make into a villain, the question isn't whether something happened to Jim Carrey. The question is what, and who decided it was time for him to go quiet, and whether, like Katt Williams, he is disappearing on purpose to do the work that can't be done in the open. Or whether, like so many before him, the system finally found a way to close the door. Drop your theory in the comments, because they are still watching who's connecting these dots.